The Oregon Ministry Network presents the following message from the 2016 Fusion Conference for Kids and Youth Ministry Leaders. This session was recorded on Friday, February 19th, and features Brian Dollar, Kids Pastor at First North Little Rock.
Thank you guys, and I'm very excited to be back with you after a full night's sleep last night. Let me tell you, I had gotten up at 2 o'clock your time yesterday and traveled all day, and then when I got here I was definitely dragging. So hopefully that didn't show too much last night, and hopefully you're all ready for a great morning this morning. I want to tell you a couple of things before we get started in our session. I mentioned it last night. We have developed a lot of curriculum and resources for children's ministry, and we actually brought quite a bit, but now it's moving out pretty fast, and we're doing buy one get one free on everything we brought here as far as curriculum. It's got everything you need, from video to graphics to Bible story, object lesson, character skits, you name it, it's in there. And so if you want to stop by there, not only are we doing buy one get one free, but the books are on sale as well. They're $15 each, or we're doing 2 for $20. So the second one you get for $5. And we're doing a great giveaway. So here, if you do nothing, if you buy nothing, that is fine, but I want you to get in the giveaway. So all you have to do is stop by the High Voltage Kids Ministry booth and just fill out a card simply with your name and email. We're going to give away a full curriculum pack and one of each of the books as a kind of a prize package. So all you have to do is stop by there, fill it out, and you'll get it for free. Now, I'm going to give something away for free right now as well. Anybody want some free stuff? Yeah? This is my latest book, and it's called Talk Now and Later, How to Lead Kids Through Life's Tough Topics. This is an extreme labor of love for me. You guys know this. This is not news to you. But our kids are receiving messages daily that are completely anti-biblical and not what God's plan or design is for their lives. And what my team and I did was we really did a lot of research and put together. It's mainly written for parents, but it's something that I believe if you'll take it, you can do a full parenting book study there at your church. And we tackled such difficult topics such as death and tragedy, how to talk to your kids about death and tragedy, sex, bullying, divorce, self-image, how to make wise choices, a lot of very difficult topics that parents often find themselves just searching for answers and how to explain it from a biblical point of view. And so I'm going to give this away this morning to somebody who, let's see, if you are in student or children's ministry and you have at least one child still living at home, stand up, all right? At least one child still living at home. And if you're too young for kids, I'm sorry, this giveaway is for them. So hurry up, get you some kids, all right? All right, good, this is great. If you have at least 2 still living at home, stay standing. 3 children living at home. 4 children. We're going to get to the Duggars pretty soon. 5 children living at home. Anybody with 5 kids? Oh, several. Goodness gracious. 6. Anyone else standing? Are you standing in the back? You're standing, but not. Oh, you're like, no, please, no. Lord, have mercy. All right. So how many kids do you have living at home?
6.
6 kids. And what are their ages?
My oldest is 11. I have a 8-year-old, 2 6-year-olds old. I have a 4-year-old and I have a 3-year-old.
My goodness, give her a hand. Way to go. God bless you. That is awesome. I mean, to have 6 kids at home and the oldest is 11, you are nonstop moving, I'm telling you. Well, do me a favor, pull out your phones right now, and I'm gonna give you connected with the book, I developed a video series. I want to give it to you free right now, okay? So all you have to do is punch in the number 66866. That's what you're going to send the text to. And then just put the word TALK, T-A-L-K. And when you text the word TALK to 66866, you're going to get signed up to automatically get that free video series coming your way based on, 6. And I was very important not to have another 6. So it's 66866. All right? 66866. And then the word TALK, T-A-L-K. Got it? All right, just punch that in and that'll get you right there. And we are going to jump into a very important topic this morning. I know we have a lot of people here who are, how many of you are full-time staff members of a church? That's what you do full-time. Raise your hand. Anybody, you are part-time on that's what you do as a part-time job, okay? How many of you are 100% volunteer and you are the leader of the ministry that you're over? Raise your hand. How many of you are 100% volunteer and you are on a team? You're not necessarily the key leader, but you're on a team and you're here. Awesome. Yeah, great. So as you can see, we've got a lot of different environments, a lot of different levels that are here and represented in the room. But we all have a pastor. And some of you are that pastor. Any lead pastors in the room? Raise your hand. Any leaders? Right back there. Give this guy a hand. Hey, way to go. This is my amen corner back here, all right? Everything I'm going to be saying this morning, he's going to be like, yeah, that's right, preach it. It's going to be great. But I travel a lot, and I talk to a lot of student ministry leaders and children's ministry leaders. And, you know, we all have different difficulties and frustrations that we face in ministry. But one theme that I find, no matter where I go, I always run into not just one, but many leaders that will end up talking to me and venting their frustrations, and it starts out with, well, my lead pastor just doesn't get it. And he just doesn't understand, or she just doesn't understand. And they go through, all this litany of issues that they have with their lead pastor. And I understand there are some lead pastors that in fact don't necessarily get what you're doing, and they don't understand. But for us to think that it is a one-way street and it's up to them to just get us and that we have no responsibility in that relationship, that is a falsity that we've got to get out of our mind. Every relationship is a two-way street. And we have one lead pastor that we've got to connect with, and the problem is that lead pastor has multiple staff and leaders and an entire church they're trying to connect with. And so it's much more difficult for them than it would be for us to feed into that relationship and make sure that our relationship is where it needs to be. So we're going to be talking about how to build and maintain a healthy relationship with our lead pastor today. Just to tell you a little bit about me, I kind of did tell you last night quite a bit of my story, but I have started in children's ministry in 1992 as a college freshman at Southwestern Assemblies of God University, where Garland is currently at. And, I was, like I told you last night, I had no clue what I was doing, but I was there for about 8 years at that church, and then I was called to North Little Rock, where I've been for almost 17 years. Of those 20-something years in ministry, I've only worked in 2 churches, and I've been under 3 pastors. So I've been through a lot with each pastor. I'm not a guy who, as soon as I hit a difficulty, I jump ship, went to the next place. All right, I've worked through a lot of conflicts. And so I'm coming to you from that perspective. It's been pretty cool. The last 10 years or so, my pastor and I have really worked closely together. We actually work on sermons together. He and I work on the fact that the kids, we develop our curriculum and all that we're teaching based on what he's teaching in the sanctuary. And so the entire family is on a learning journey together. That's a lot of work, but it really is cool how we've been able to develop a synergy between he and I. We've gotten to the point where we're very close. He even had a very difficult, a big life decision that he needed to make, and he came and consulted me on that before he pursued that. And I'm saying all that to say, when you work through all of the issues and difficulties, it's amazing where God can take you in your relationship with your lead pastor. But you cannot jump ship as soon as there's a difficulty and say, well, I'm going to go find somebody who appreciates me. Wherever you go, there you are. And your issues come with you. And so you need to work on you as much as you think you need to change a location. All right? Now, the leaders I've worked with have radically different personalities, radically different styles and approaches to staff ministry. But the principles that I've learned and will share apply to any and all situations. Many of you that are volunteers on a team, you actually will take a lot of these principles and apply it to the youth pastor or the children's pastor, whoever you serve under. You'll be able to apply a lot of these principles to them as well. But I want you to have a healthy relationship with the leaders that you serve. So let's jump right into it. If you want to do it, number one, pray for your pastor and his family daily. I don't know why some of that's kind of cut off. Maybe there you go. You can kind of move it over. I'm not sure what the deal is there. Pray for your pastor and his family daily. I cannot stress this enough. Prayer changes things, y'all. And if you've got strife or you've got tension in your relationship, don't go talking to anyone else about the issue until you have spoken to God and allowed Him to speak into your life about it. There's an old saying that I learned, and man, it has changed my life. If you talk about people to other people, you'll grow to hate them. But if you talk about people to God, you'll grow to love them. And when you have tension and issues with your leader, instead of venting or going for a prayer request to someone else, pray with me because my pastor's a jerk. That's not exactly the prayer request. But rather than doing that, if you will truly get on your knees and pray for your pastor, since my kids were young and since my wife and I have been together in ministry, we have every day got on our knees and prayed. And my kids, up until the time that they began praying on their own, every night we would pray, God bless Pastor Rod, Miss Cindy, Parker, and Tyler. Prayed for my whole pastor's family so that God would bless them, protect them. Listen, our pastors are the enemy's biggest target. And he knows if he can take them out with whether that's moral failure or depression or anything, that will have a ripple effect throughout our churches, and he will render a lot of ministries ineffective. And that's why we got to pray for our pastor and his family every day. Number two, stay connected to the vision. I think maybe you can kind of work on it. I think if you might have to punch in the system settings and just adjust the it looks like it's because it's never done that before. I think it's just the way it's coming through the computer. It doesn't like that projector. But if it doesn't work, I think you guys can still walk with me through it. Stay connected to the vision. All right. Here's what I mean by that. I know how it is, especially children's pastors. You're off in another room away from the main thing where everybody's getting to hear your pastor's heart and your pastor's vision, and you're rarely even in the main service. And so you don't get the freebie of listening to your pastor share his heart. So you got to be proactive in staying connected to that vision. Something that I have decided to do every single week. We actually have 4 services a weekend. We have a Saturday night service and then 3 Sunday morning services. Well, at the end of our Saturday night service, I actually have one of my guys go over and we get a DVD from my pastor's message that night. And I sit down with my entire team and we watch my pastor's sermon from that night so that we make sure that we stay connected to His vision. You say, well, we don't have DVDs and we don't do a camera. I don't know of any pastor who doesn't record his messages in some way. And if not, you at least can ask him for a copy of his notes. Somehow, some way, you need to get connected and don't lose that connection. I remember there was a period of time where I didn't do that. And I missed out on a massive opportunity for missions because I didn't read the bulletin. I didn't read letters that he sent home. I just thought, I'm in my own little world, so I'm just going to do kids and I don't need to worry about it. And next thing you know, I had my own little kingdom that was just completely contrary to what God's will was for my life and for the church. So get connected to your pastor's vision. And then number 3, own your pastor's vision. Own your pastor's vision. Don't let it just be his. Let it be yours. Own that. My pastor has a statement that he makes all the time. And it's every soul matters to God. It doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter if you grew up in church or didn't grow up in church. How much money you have, how much money you don't have, what's your race, gender, whatever. Every soul matters to God. He says it all the time. Well, I continuously was trying to pour that into our kids as well. And a couple years ago, our junior Bible quiz team, you know how they come up with names for their team, you know, the Fighting Eagles or the Screaming Lions, you know, something that's intimidating. Well, all of a sudden I saw one of our junior Bible quiz teams that had the team name on the back, and it was a word I had no clue. I didn't know if it was some kind of Greek word that I hadn't learned, but it was Esmtg. ESMTG, Esmtg. And I'm like, what is that? And so I asked one of the kids, I said, what is Esmtg? That is weird. Oh, that's our team name. Well, what is that? Is that Hebrew? What is it? They said, come on, Pastor Brian. ESMTG, every soul matters to God. Well, guess what? At that moment, I realized, all right, my kids get it. And obviously, I had been doing a decent job of communicating my pastor's vision in order for the kids to get it. Hey, there was a time when we were in the middle of major church planning around the world. I mean, major church planning. And my pastor asked me if the kids would raise funds to plant a church in Madagascar. And you know, and I'm just being real with you, all right? We were this close to being number 1 in the nation in BGMC, and I knew that I could get just a little bit more money out of these kids for BGMC, and we could get that big plaque that says we're number 1, and some weird thing from Africa that was given to us with a plate on it, you know, and I was all excited about getting number 1. And I realized, okay, so if we take all this money to plant this church in Africa, we're not going to get to be number 1. Well, guess what? For one, God slapped me in the head and said, what are you thinking? We're planting churches in Africa. But at that moment, I realized I got a choice to make. I can put my vision up front, my desire for us to be the number 1 BGMC giving church, or I could follow what my pastor is leading, and we can be a part of this children's ministry, church planning effort. And we didn't necessarily get BGMC credit for it, but I'll tell you this, a lot of people are coming to the kingdom as a result of what those kids did. That all has to do with owning your pastor's vision. Forget what you desire and listen and realize that his heart and desire for the church is something that you have to own and pass on to the kids. Number 4. Understand that God called me to serve my lead pastor first, the church second. Now, before you start getting all antsy on me, all right, and say, well, wait a second. My pastor, he's only been there 2 years. I've been going to that church my whole life. Don't tell me I'm supposed to serve him before. He'll be gone in a couple of years, and I'll still be there. And I understand that. But God has called him or her to be there as the shepherd for that flock at this time. I don't care how long you've been there and how long you're going to be there after. Your desire should be to help him in what God has called him to do. And to be a servant and lead the other people in the church, not based on what they're coming, and never allow somebody in the congregation to drive a wedge between you and your leader. They'll try to do that and play these power play games and this politics stuff. Do not allow that. Understand, you got to serve your senior pastor, your lead pastor first, the church second. And so if somebody comes and has a complaint to you, they do that to me. They'll come and say, oh man, I can't believe da-da-da-da-da. I say, you know what? I know Pastor Rod would want to know your heart on that. Let's go talk to him right now. Let's share that. Oh, it's amazing. I've had, no, I mean, I didn't know. I mean, I'm fine with it. No, it's great. You know, they don't want to take the biblical approach. They just want to murmur and complain and all that. And so do not allow it. Don't listen to it. Don't participate in it. Serve your pastor. And don't allow the church to drive a wedge. And then number 5, look for opportunities to serve. Look for opportunities to serve. The key there is look. You know, you might have a pastor like mine, and he does not ask for help on anything. He will not tell you his needs. He will not share with you what he wants you to do. He just won't. If he's got an issue or a need, he's not going to tell you. Well, I started looking for ways to serve him. One way that I saw when his kids were younger is by serving his family. I served him. You know, he travels a lot and speaks, raising money for missions all over the place. And when he's gone, I would call and check on his wife all the time and check on the kids, make sure they didn't need anything. Tyler, his son, I can't tell you how many science projects that I helped with in junior high and senior high. You know, I looked for opportunities when I was traveling with my pastor. I noticed whenever we were on a missions trip that he was having to, set up all his computer stuff and carry. I said, you know what? Don't even worry about that. You focus on the pastors that you're serving. I'm going to set your stuff up. I'm going to carry your bag. And I had a lot of people say, man, look at you. What a kiss up, carrying your pastor's bag. Let me tell you what that is. That's not kissing up. That's serving. That is looking for ways that you can lighten the load for the person that you are serving and doing everything you can do. If you see it, do it. Look for opportunities to serve. And number 6, anything can be my job. Oh man. I hear from so many staff pastors, well, they better not ask me to do blank, because that's not my job. Hey, I do kids. I do students. I don't do whatever, fill in the blank. Listen, if you are called to serve that church, you are called to do whatever is necessary. Whether that's moving boxes, stacking chairs, changing the sign, mowing the yard, cleaning the bathroom, whatever. And you say, well, easy for you to say, you're at that 5,000 member church. You don't have to do none of that stuff. On the contrary. There was a time when 3 of our maintenance staff were fired in 1 week for good reason. And all of us had to suddenly become the janitors. And my pastor, my pastor thought it was so great. And he joined in too. But he thought it was so great for us that went on for months, all right, before. And we really worked hard and appreciated the next crew that came along. I'll just tell you that. But I constantly, when they needed a college pastor, I didn't say, well, I only do kids. I said, absolutely, I'll step in. I was not offered a raise. I was not offered more perks. I was just presented with the need. And I was the college pastor for 1.5 years as I was leading our kids ministry. And dude, it was whenever we had only 2 services on Sunday morning. So I would do the kids service, run over to the main building. Hey, thank you so much. Run over to the main building. And then I would teach the college Sunday school class and run back over to the kids building and do the second service in kids. Talk about schizophrenia. Man. I mean, I didn't know who I was talking to sometime. When I started doing a balloon object lesson for the college students, they're just looking at me like, you're in the wrong spot, bud. Get over there. I'm kidding. I didn't do that. But hey, when they needed to overall Wednesday night worship, I immediately volunteered. And for years, I did that. When they needed a speaker in our student ministry, I do it. When they need a lead role in a Christmas or Easter play, I've done it. It doesn't matter what the need is. Don't ever say, that's not my job. Just do what needs to be done. Anything can be my job. And number 7. Oh, this is big. Know when to be serious. you know, we like to have fun, right? Yeah. We like to get crazy. And hey, it captures the attention of the kids when we're just acting wacky and goofy. And sometimes that can spill over into moments when goofy is not what the doctor ordered. I will never forget when I made one of the stupidest mistakes of my life. And I'm going to tell you this story, and you're going to wonder how I still have a job. But it is for real. I mentioned how I'm willing to be in a production or an Easter play if necessary. And, you know, several years ago we used to do one of those full Passion plays, you know, before the Passion of the Christ came along and ruined it all for us, where nothing can compare to that anymore, you know. And so we used to do that. And I actually played the narrator. I had to grow this big beard, you know, and I had a full Israeli garb on, you know, the whole biblical costume thing, you know, with the headdress and everything. Well, my whole role was that at different times I would come out of the crowd and I would explain what had been going on from the crowd's perspective, and really just helping the audience connect to what the everyday people were thinking as they watched Jesus do his miracles and teach what he was teaching. Well, there was a period of time of about 10 to 12 minutes where I didn't have to be on the stage. Now, it happened to be the moment when Jesus was on trial, being beaten, and then crucified, kind of a very important part of the entire story. Well, I went around back, and it was the fourth time that we'd done this production. I mean, I'd done it over and over and over again. I had this thing down, and I was feeling a little loose, and I walked by our drama costume closet, and I saw this Keystone Cop hat sitting there. I cannot tell you what went through my mind exactly or why I thought this was a good idea. But I grabbed it and I put it on my head and I walked down the stairs to our media room where I knew our student pastor and our worship pastor were in. And I thought, well, they'll think this is funny. So I walked in and I'm like, you know, did a little dance, and they're like, ha, 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 ha. And then we started watching the monitor there, and I completely forgot that I had this thing on my head. And as I'm watching, and all of a sudden I hear the line that is the cue for me to be out there on the stage, I go, oh, that's my spot. And I run and I come onto the stage in front of a couple thousand people, all right? And I do not remember, don't realize, still have no clue, this giant Keystone Cop hat is on my head. I can't feel it because I can't feel anything. This headdress had cut off all circulation to my head. And so I'm going and I just straight-faced. Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus took the body of Jesus and placed it in Joseph's own tomb. Now, I'm doing all this while they're carrying the body of Jesus and placing it in the tomb. And the whole crowd's looking at me going, what's up on his head? Well, we had the entire orchestra right in front of me in the orchestra pit, and I happened to catch the eye of our drummer. His name was Michael, and he was looking at me, and he had a look on his face like... And I thought, maybe he thought I wasn't like doing my lines right, and I'm like, dude, this is my fourth time, I know these lines. And so I'm like, forget you, and I kept on going. Every time I walked by, he's looking at me like this. And I thought, is my fly down? He can't tell. I've got a whole gown here. He has no idea. I didn't know what he was staring at. And the third time I walked by, his face was so contorted that I knew something was wrong. And I had the thought, oh no. And I cut my eyes up to the screen that was on the wall, and there it sat. Huge Keystone Cop hat on top of my head. And I thought, I'm dead. My eyes immediately went straight to where my pastor was sitting right on the front row. Now here's what you got to know about Rod Loy, all right? He is the world's best at just the deadpan face that you can't read, all right? He doesn't look mad. He doesn't look happy. He just... And so I'm like, maybe he doesn't notice. So I finished my line. I turn, And as I'm walking, and as luck would have it, I mean, this is just like God to just punish me this way, all right? I had to walk down this plank, literally walk the plank, right in front of where my pastor was sitting to turn and exit. And so as I'm walking down, I look at him, and then he's looking at me, and I know he saw it now. I mean, I'm like this close, and he's just looking at me, and I felt the need to explain myself, but I didn't want to break character too bad. So I kind of at the side of my mouth said, "It was an accident, I'm sorry," and kept walking. Well, I walked out, and I made a beeline to that media room, and I'm like, "Student pastor, worship pastor," opened the door and said, "Why didn't y'all tell me?" And they're like, "Well, we didn't think you were stupid enough to wear that up on the stage." I said, "You know me. You know I'm stupid enough." And it was bad, man. I mean, I'm sitting here going, I'm dead. I'm going to die. This is over. So, like all the way back in junior high, all of a sudden, I go back and I'm like, I got to write my pastor a note. Okay, I gotta tell him. So I scribble out this note, like it was a total accident. I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? Check yes or no. No, I'm just kidding. But I did say, explain myself, and I gave it to the worship pastor, and I said, "You got to get down there and you got to give it to him." He goes, "I'm not doing that." I said, "Man, I can't. I'm in full costume. I can't go down there." I said, "He's got to know now. I cannot talk to him after this. You got to go." So he went down, and I watched. It was so funny because, I was back kind of peeking through the door, and watch him as he goes down and sits down next to Rod, hands him the note. I watch as Pastor Rod opens it, reads it, closes it. Nothing. I'm like, really? I got nothing? So afterwards, I've changed, and I'm kind of waiting on him, and Pastor Rod comes up, and I said, "Please, can I talk to you?" And he goes, "Sure." So we go over to the side, and I said, "Pastor Rod, I would never, ever do something like that on purpose." He said, "You kidding? You telling me you didn't know that's up on your head?" I kind of went back through the story. I said, "I promise I would never do that." He goes, "Okay, all right, you know what? I believe you." So it would have been over at that point. But I just had to see what it looked like. So I went into the media room, and I said to our media director, Chris, "Hey man, were you rolling tape on that?" He goes, "Oh yeah, we're always rolling tape." I said, "Back it up, I want to see it." So he backs it up and plays it for me, and I watch it. And we're laughing. Next thing you know, about 4 or 5 people came in. I said, "Rewind it, show them." That went on about 10 times until the entire media room was full of people and just laughing. And in the middle of a hearty laugh, I look up at the door to the media room, and guess who's standing there? My pastor. Looking at me like, "So you're really sorry about this, huh?" And he turned and walked away. I knew I had to go down to his office and talk to him, so I took the walk of shame, man. All the way down. I watched him at the end of the hall, waited till he turned, and then I came in that hall. You don't want to have this conversation in the open. I went down to his office, and I sat down, and it was a tough conversation. But I remember him saying to me, and I'll never forget it. He said, "Brian, I really believe in your heart, and I believe that God's got a plan to use you in a big way here at First Assembly." He said, "But every time you pull a stunt like this, you tie my hands from being able to elevate you in leadership." And I felt about that big and realized that thing that makes you awesome in front of the kids and that they really love and that they absolutely are drawn to, that's the thing that if you don't get that under control, your greatest asset can become your greatest liability. And you have to know when the time is to be serious. Now, when I tell that story, almost always somebody comes up to me afterwards and says, "Okay, is that really how it happened? Did that really happen the way you said?" Every bit of it is true. And to prove it to you, I brought the video for you. And so it's bad old VHS quality. It's really bad. This was back in 2002. And so we might have to turn these front lights off here. I don't know if you can do that very easily, but I'll pull it up here, and then you're probably going to have to back out a little bit, of course, and then you're going to have to hit that play button and maybe get it just a little bit bigger if you can. and then we'll be good to go. And you got to really crank it up because you can barely hear it. It's such bad quality. But enjoy my misery. Here you go. Just hit right on that play button. It should start. It did earlier. There we go. It might be muted on the computer. You got to hit the computer. There it is. Look at that. I mean, look at that. Oh, my Lord. They're putting Jesus in the tomb right there. Okay, now, you're going to see in a moment, my eyes are going to cut to the upper right-hand corner of the screen. That's whenever I looked and saw.
They searched for answers.
Right? There. Watch my eyes. Oh!
When the kid got predictions for the very first time.
I mean, that thing's 3 times the size of my head. What in the world? So there you go. It really did happen. It's true. Oh, all right. Let's keep going. Number 8, listen between the lines. Don't require direct confrontation. You know what? Pastors often, nobody likes to confront, all right? Nobody likes to have to dictate and tell you what to do. And instead of listening and making your pastor create a bunch of rules and policies for you, listen between the lines and listen what his preferences are as opposed to what his rules for you are. Okay? You know, whenever I first got there, I had a goatee, you know, it was back in the goatee days, and I just had this goatee that I loved. But I was traveling with my pastor, and I heard him tell some other senior pastors, he said, you know, I prefer that my pastors be clean shaven. You know, he said, I think it looks better. It's much more professional. It's just my preference. Well, he never told me that, and he's never made a rule for me on that. But you know what I did when I got home? I shaved. Because I heard that from him, that his preference was that we be that. When I first got there, we were in the middle of the Bible Belt, and it was still, we're in a 100-year-old church plus, and, we still had a lot of people who had a problem with going to the movies. It didn't matter if it was Bambi or not. I mean, if you go into the movie house, it is the devil house, you know. And so he had a deal that he didn't go to the movies. And he never made that a rule for us, but I decided if he feels that's important to be able to maintain the leadership that he needs, then I'm going to do the same. And so don't merely follow your pastor's orders. Listen between the lines. It's not, brown-nosing or, trying to be the favorite. It's honoring your leader's preferences above your own. Serving instead of being selfish. So listen between the lines. Don't require direct confrontation. Number 9. Offer accountability. Offer accountability. There's a difference between you offering accountability and your pastor demanding accountability. When you offer it, you're keeping him up to date. You're keeping him informed. You're letting him know, hey, when you're going to be late, you call. When something goes wrong, you tell him. Don't make your pastor go into CSI mode to try to figure out what happened. If a parent is upset, I don't wait for him to hear about it from that parent. Instead, I immediately email him after I've had the conversation and say, just want you to know, here's what happened. And I make myself accountable. I say, is there any other way I should have handled this situation other than the way I did? Rather than making him hear it all from that pastor, and then he has to come and sit down with you and say, here's what I heard, and now let's deal with it. I don't put him in that situation. Instead, I offer that accountability so that I don't have to put him in investigation mode. Everybody hates having to do that. Number 10, and we talked about this last night, so I won't spend a lot of time on it. Inform him of job offers immediately. If you missed it last night, I basically just said when you get offered to go to another church by another pastor, get down there and let them know, because it keeps him from hearing it somewhere else. Because, hey, senior pastors talk. They do. He'll hear about it eventually that you were asked. And I don't want him having a thought in his mind that I'm out there looking and searching for another spot to go. I want him to know that was not something I looked after. And then, of course, the selfish part of that is he knows somebody else is looking for you, so he's going to take good care of you. All right, number 2. All right, number 11. Don't be defensive. Be open to correction. Oh man, I struggled with this for years, y'all. And in my natural tendency, I kind of still do. Defensiveness is something that you're never going to grow if you're defensive about everything. When your pastor's trying to correct you and help you to handle something differently, rather than feel like you got to give all this explanation, well, here's what I was thinking, and here's what I meant, and here's what I thought, and this is why I did that, and just defending everything. Instead, just listen, receive, and take the nugget of truth that you can take to help yourself become a better leader. Just because your action is being corrected does not mean your character is being questioned. All right? Separate yourself from what you do as a job and realize we're all going to learn how to do things better. So be open to correction. Don't defend yourself nonstop. All right? Number 12. Don't make him communicate his appreciation in your love language. Allow him to communicate in his own. You know, my pastor's not a flatterer, all right? He doesn't just throw out words of affirmation left and right. That's not really his love language. He's not going to throw out compliments of, you're the best children's pastor we've ever had. Man, we couldn't make it without you. Well, my love language is positive words of encouragement and affirmation. And I do that with my team, and that's the way, that's one of my key love languages. Well, because my pastor had not spoken his desire for me to continue working there. This is way back in, early 2000s. I got to a point where because I hadn't heard these words of affirmation, which really, when you think about it, is so shallow and immature, that I needed him to just butter me up and tell me how great I am all the time. Well, no, but that same year he had given me 2 raises. He had provided a car for me. I was the only staff member besides the pastoral care guy that he provided a car for. He had asked me to preach for him on a Sunday morning when he'd be out of the country. And you know, there's very few children's pastors who get that opportunity at a church our size. And I had thought he must not really appreciate me because he hadn't patted me on the back and said, you're the best children's pastor ever, and we love you. Now, is that insane or what? His love language is opportunity and gifts. He provides opportunities for me all the time, and he does give. And I was insistent on receiving only the way I like to receive instead of allowing him to express it the way he wanted to express it. So don't be immature. Let him express it the way that he does naturally and best. Number 13. Keep your frustration quiet. We're all going to get frustrated. We're all going to disagree with stuff that our pastor does. You should be able to communicate it to your pastor if it needs to be communicated. Sometimes you just need to pray and get over it. But if you can't get over it, then you go to your pastor alone. Don't you dare go whining to board members, other staff, or anyone else in the church. Keep your frustration quiet. That sows seeds of discord and disunity, and it is not biblical. It's completely against God's plan for His kingdom. Do not go to other people before you've gone to your pastor. If it's a major issue, there's a biblical pattern put in place for us to follow. But when it's just little frustrations that you just don't like the way things are going, you keep that quiet, or you go to your pastor and talk it through. And then, and we're gonna learn it here in just a little bit, how to handle it after that meeting. But here's what I want to caution you. When I say keep your frustration quiet, that doesn't mean stay quiet when others are criticizing your pastor. Because if you're in a group and they're all just tearing your pastor down and all you do is just sit there and be quiet because you think, well, I don't want to say anything, guess what they're going to assume? They're going to assume you agree with everything they're saying, and you just can't say anything because you're on staff and you get fired. And so they will quote your silence later, I promise you. Handle it the same way I handle it. When I get somebody who's yeah and complain, I do. I immediately say, you know what, I know Pastor Rod would want to hear your heart on that, so let's go talk to him. And 9 times out of 10, they will not do that because they realize they're in error and they're wrong. And they get over it. All right? 14. Defer praise. Defer praise. If you want to make sure that your heart stays right when people are buttering you up, you know, people will use flattery to position you against your lead pastor. So when somebody comes up to me after I've preached in the sanctuary and they say, man, that was a great sermon, I say, you know what, I have an amazing teacher. And Pastor Rod gives me the opportunity, and he has taught me everything I know about communicating, and I'm so thankful. Whenever somebody comes up and says, man, I sure am glad you're on our staff, I say, you know, I'm pleased to serve such an amazing leader, and I'm thankful that Pastor Rod allows me, after everything I've done, to still have a job here. You know, every chance you get, point to your lead pastor, not yourself. Hey, even when I go to a hospital and I visit somebody who's sick, rather than me be the man of the hour walking in to bless and pray over them, the first words out of my mouth are, Pastor Rod wanted me to come by and see you. Now, is that something I'm assigned to do, and every other week I have a full day that I go and visit everybody in the hospital? Yes, that is an assignment, but I received that assignment from my pastor. And that is because he wants our people to be blessed and taken care of. And so rather than own that for myself, I defer that praise and give it to him. Anytime I bless somebody in the church, when my family and I have been able to buy Christmas presents for some needy families and some different stuff, I always include my pastor in that gift. And I say, you know, Pastor Rod and I wanted you to have this. Because I have the opportunity and the material opportunity to bless somebody only because my pastor lets me do what I do. And so I'm constantly deferring praise to him. Number 15. This is what I was telling you on after you have a disagreement and you talk to them in private. Hey, take the blame, own a decision. We had a situation, you know, where I had my Impact Girls leaders wanted to have a certain event. And I thought it was a great idea. I thought it was all right. But I said, you know what, let me check whether we can do that. And I went and I talked to my pastor about it. And he had a whole list of reasons why he just really did not feel like this was the best decision to make. Well, we argued back and forth. He allows that. He said, hey, tell me what you think, and let's go back and forth. But ultimately he said, Brian, I really feel we cannot do this. Well, here's what I could have done. I could have walked out of that room and walked back to these Impact ladies and said, you know, I wanted you to be able to do that. I thought it was a great idea. But my pastor, you know, he's all thinking liability and stuff, and I guess we can't do that. That's not what I did. I immediately went back to them and I said, you know what, Pastor Rod and I discussed it, and that's just not going to be something that we're going to be able to do at this time. We feel like it's just not the right thing for us to do. And I owned that with him rather than pushing that off to him. It's amazing how whenever it's a decision that you know people are going to celebrate, you own that real quick. But whenever it's a decision that you know people are not going to be necessarily happy with, you want to divorce yourself from that decision. Oh, it was him. He said it. He said no, and I'm sorry. You can't do that. That's certainly not going to endear you to the heart of your leader. That's going to put him or her in a bad situation. Number 16. Communicate. 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 And I say it again. Communicate. Send him or her email updates on meetings that you have. If you hear of a problem, send it to them. The moment you know of a hitch in their plans, let them know. You know what? Your pastor doesn't have to respond to your every email, but you're giving information so that they're not blindsided by stuff and they know things ahead of time. The last thing they need is to be blindsided by a situation that you could and should have let them know about. And a lot of times, you know, I hear a children's pastor say, well, my pastor just never celebrates children's ministry. And I ask him, when was the last time you told him an amazing story of a kid's life that was changed? Or the story of a family who's come to your church because of their kids saying, we got to be in church because I want to be at kids' church, or I want to be in student ministry. I mean, you've got to communicate that because he's not there. He doesn't know. Give him reasons to celebrate. And don't think, well, I don't want to bother him. You know what? Let him decide what bothers him. What's the worst that could happen if you send him email after email? He hits delete. Oh, that was such a bother. You know, but at least he knows what's going on. All right? Number 17. Oh, this is tough. Fight the thought, if only I was in charge. Oh, it's so easy for us to do that. Because, we're not in charge. And so we can easily look at a decision that our pastor made and just assume that we have all the facts and assume that we knew everything that went into that decision, and we can see when it goes wrong, and then we say, I wouldn't have done it that way. I'd have done this, that, or the other. And we constantly are Monday morning quarterbacking our leaders. You just think you want the title of senior pastor. If you knew the stress, the anxiety, the enormity of every decision, and then knowing that each one of those decisions that you make affects the livelihood of the entire staff and the congregation, you would have a new appreciation for your pastor. Listen, you don't know all that's going on because he's not going to come whine to you about all of his issues. He's not going to come and share with you every issue or problem. Take my word for it. You don't want that level of responsibility. It's easy for us to armchair quarterback and second guess when the results of your second guessing don't affect anyone. Besides, all year what I would have done is founded completely on 20/20 hindsight. If your pastor had the ability to see the future and know whether or not this decision was going to work, he'd make the right call every time as well. But you don't have all the information, so fight that thought, if only I was in charge. You don't want that. Number 18, don't assume motives. Don't assume that your pastor's making a certain decision based on a particular motive, or that he's trying to, quote, send a message to you. Don't let your insecurity fester feelings inside of you toward your pastor by projecting motives onto them. If you're going to assume a motive, assume the best one. If you're going to assume a motive, assume that your pastor meant the best for you. Don't assume the worst. Never assume motives for your pastor. That will drive a wedge between you and he has no idea, because this is all in your mind. All right? Number 19. I know this is tough. It's not easy. And this one's a tough one too. Tell the whole truth the first time. Tell the whole truth the first time. You know how we do. We'll tell just enough of the story to where he got the basic facts of what happened, but we leave out any and all details that might reflect bad on us. And we just get it to where we'll say, oh yeah, no, I told you about that, yeah. So later when he's asking, well, hey, what happened? Oh no, I told you, remember I mentioned, well, we only gave him a little piece of the story. And then he has to come back and the second time or maybe the third time till ultimately everything comes through. Don't try to save face by giving part of the truth. Just enough for you not to lie, but also not get in trouble. You know how it is. I had a guy on my team one time, and we were supposed to meet at 10 o'clock for a meeting. He lived in an apartment about 5 minutes away from the church. Well, it was 10:05 and he still wasn't at the meeting. And so I called him on his cell phone. And when he answered, I heard the TV in the background. And I said, hey, did you forget about our meeting? He goes, oh, no, I'll be there in a sec. I'm on my way. And he hung up. And I waited exactly 5 minutes, the length of time it takes to drive from his apartment to the church. And he walked in and sat down and said, hey, sorry about that. And I said, so when I called you, where were you? Oh, I was at my apartment. I said, well, when you talked to me, you said, I'm on my way. You're at home. You're not on your way. Oh, well, when I was saying that, I was actually walking towards the door to go out of my apartment. So I was on my way. Technical truth, not the whole truth. I had one of my leaders one time that was supposed to make a bunch of phone calls to some parents. And I'd given them a whole list, and, it'd been a week, and I hadn't heard anything back. And so I asked them, I said, hey, how are things going on those phone calls? And they said, oh, really good. Haven't been able to get a hold of everybody yet. So I asked a follow-up question. I said, well, how many people have you gotten a hold of? Well, I actually hadn't gotten a hold of any of them yet, but I'm working on it. I said, you're working on it. How many phone calls have you made? None. So their first statement of, I haven't got a hold of them all yet, was actually accurate. But it was a very misleading statement and was not even close to the truth. Listen, you will not get Trust is built on honesty and a history of coming through. And your pastor will forgive you for messing up. But it's very difficult to overcome somebody who's going to give you half-truths and try to protect their own self all the time. So you're not going to move up in your relationship with your pastor if they can't even trust you to tell the truth. So tell the whole truth the first time. Listen, your pastor may do what my pastor does all the time, and he asks questions he already knows the answer to, just to see how trustworthy you are and how forthcoming you'll be. Tell the whole truth the first time. And finally, express appreciation. Express appreciation. I know you love your pastor and you appreciate your pastor. But when was the last time you told him? When was the last time you sent an email or even wrote a note or sent a text message just thanking him for being who he is? Or thanking your pastor for what opportunity you've been given. I just decided a long time ago I'm gonna over communicate my appreciation and my thanks. Wasn't long ago I sent him a thank you note simply for having coffee in the break room. We got almost 50 employees at the church, and they're coffeeaholics, man. I'm telling you. We got one of those Keurigs, and each one of those little things are like $1.85 or something. I don't know. They're expensive. And I just started thinking of, man, how much money that is spent on just coffee. And I realized this is not something that we have to be given. There could, I know a lot of churches where they've got a jar, and if you're going to take anything, you put money in there, and you are not going to get nothing, And I realized this is a blessing. And I told him, thank you. There was a point whenever I was pretty inconvenienced. We were moving offices, and our preschool area was growing. Well, we ended up losing all of our office space to the preschool, and we moved into an area that was about 1/4 the size of the office space. Now, I could have looked at that and been very sad and upset that now I got 1/4 the size of the office. But when I went into that smaller office, my other office furniture didn't work, and so he bought me a new desk. And rather than complain, instead I sent him a thank you note for the new office furniture and the opportunity to have a space that's my own, that I can work and do my job. Listen, I know you care, but appreciation that is unexpressed is not worth a whole lot. It's great that you have the feelings, but your pastor gets email after email and conversation after conversation about what he should have done that he didn't do, or how he made this decision that somebody didn't like. Negative comes his way a lot from his team. He needs to hear words of positivity, appreciation, and more often than you think you should. And so I'm going to give you an assignment, okay? Sometime before Sunday evening. Maybe it's right now. You want to send him a text message thanking him for letting you take the time to come to something like this and providing this for you. Maybe you want to stop by somewhere and get a card that you want to write it out. And you say, well, you don't understand. I'm actually pretty irritated at my pastor right now. I'm not going to feel very good about writing it. I understand. Stuff happens. So you know what we're going to do? We're not going to talk about people to people. We're going to talk about people to God right now. And for the next few minutes, what we're going to do is we're going to pray for the leaders that God has put in our lives. And I know a lot of churches, you might be spread out across the room, but what I'm going to ask you to do is, as Barbara comes to the keys, and she's just going to play some worship music in the background, and we're going to get together. So what I want you to do is to stand up, feel free, and find your church people. And I want you to gather together, make a circle if you want, however you want to do it. But we're going to call on God to bless our pastors, to protect our pastors, to help us be the kind of leaders that we need to be. And I want you to stay serious and focused. And I want us to pray God's blessing on our pastors right now. Would you find your leaders, and would you get together as pastors, as churches, and let's pray for our pastors together.
Thank you for listening. For more information about the Oregon Ministry Network and our events, please visit our website at oregonag.org.